We're off and running. Welcome into the show. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now. Chase Sr. here with you. And as always, no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day. Here's what we're getting into here over the next several minutes. Philadelphia Eagles today making a roster move. Is another move coming as well, which could help out a unit for this Eagles team that this season in 2025 has really been struggling. And why doesn't this Eagles offense target the middle area of the field? We'll get into that as well. And Nick Sirianni had an interesting quote about keeping the ball out of harm's way. That's been a big philosophy and point of emphasis from him. And we'll take a look at what he had to say as well. Let's begin here, though. It's Dallas week. If you hate the Cowboys, I want you to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. Also, type F Dallas down in the chat. I want 1,000 likes at least on today's Philadelphia Eagles Now. All right, let's begin here. Is more offensive line help on the way for the Birds? Today, the Eagles opening up the practice window for rookie 6th-round pick Myles Hinton. It's been a little while since we've talked about him. I thought in training camp and in the preseason, he showed some signs of being a really good player. Jordan Mailata, prior to the year, was very complimentary of the 3 6th-round offensive linemen who the Eagles drafted: Myles Hinton, Drew Kendall, and Cameron Williams. But Hinton, before the year and after the preseason, was placed on injured reserve with an undisclosed injury in August. Now, Philadelphia at that time used a designated to return IR designation, meaning they placed him on IR, but not season-ending injured reserve. And of course, a big storyline this week: Lane Johnson hurt, Liz Frank injury to his left foot. He's going to be out, according to reports, 4 to 6 weeks. And so Myles Hinton here can give the Eagles offensive line depth at both tackle positions. And he is 6'7", 323 pounds. He has elite physical tools. Howie Roseman really likes NFL bloodlines. Hinton's pops and brother played professional football. Hinton himself has a massive frame, very long arms, important to play that offensive tackle spot. He's a good athlete. He can move really well. I would say that when I scouted him at Stanford and at Michigan, because he started his career at Stanford, then went to Michigan, I would say that he needs refinement with his technique as being a pass blocker. His strength right now is as a run blocker, because at 6'7", 323, especially when he can get out in space, he moves pretty well. Also a pretty experienced player in the college ranks. 46 games, 31 starts, 19 of them at right tackle, 12 of them at left tackle. So he does have swing tackle experience. And the Eagles offensive line has some question marks around it going into Sunday's game against the Dallas Cowboys, and really for the foreseeable future here during the 2025 season, because Lane Johnson's going to be out for a month and a half, might not be back until the NFL playoffs. And so until then, Fred Johnson, who's been the 6th offensive lineman in some of these jumbo packages, and when Lane Johnson has gotten hurt because he's left games 3 or 4 times this year, all with different injuries, Fred Johnson has had to step in. He's played really well. So right now, he's going to anchor the right side of the line of scrimmage at that right tackle spot. We also don't know what the injury status is as of this recording of Cam Jurgens. Missed 2 games, came back to play against the Lions, then he got hurt again, coming off offseason back surgery. I just don't think he's been able to find a groove all season long. And so if he can't play against the Cowboys, if he can't play moving forward, it will be Brett Toth manning the center position once again. And I think he certainly had some ups and downs throughout his career. At left guard, he struggled at times. At center, he struggled at times, whether it be with blocking, overall strength and anchor, him snapping the ball. There were some issues with that during training camp. I will say, the 2 games that Cam Jurgens was out, he left early against Minnesota, then missed that second Giants game, and then was out against Green Bay. Brett Toth played pretty well, and he played well against some pretty solid interior defensive linemen. As for Lane Johnson, massive loss for the Birds offense, and that can't be understated, and that's been the case throughout his career. We're talking about a guy who's one of one. Might go down as the best right tackle in the history of the game, certainly in the history of this Eagles organization. Cam Jurgens called him the best offensive lineman to ever play for the Eagles. Jeff Stoutland, best offensive line coach in the league, said Lane Johnson is the prototype to be an offensive tackle. With Lane on the field throughout his career, the Eagles are 110, 57-1. That is a winning percentage just shy of 66%. Without him, the winning percentage goes down from nearly 66% to just under 40%, and the Eagles' record drops to 15-23. Now, the last 2 years, they are 5-0 without Lane Johnson, so they have found ways to be successful without him of late, but a long sample size of this Eagles offense struggling as far as wins and losses, points per game, blocking, passing, running when Lane is off the field. And this year, he hasn't quite been as good as he was last year, but I'd say this entire Eagles offensive line hasn't been as good as they were last year. It's a big reason why this offense has struggled to find its footing, but Lane has still been very good. And I think that on tape, he's looked superior to almost every right tackle out there. Overall PFF grade, 17th out of 76. 77.6 is the grade there. Pass blocking grade of 81.3. That ranks 8th. Run blocking grade just under 70. That ranks 29th. But here are the big numbers here. Lane Johnson did not give up a sack this season. Did not give up a quarterback hit. Only gave up 7 pressures. That ranked 4th at the position. So Myles Hinton, his practice window has been open. Eagles have 3 weeks to activate him to the 53-man roster. Could another move at offensive line be coming for the Birds? The Eagles last week opened up the practice window for Willie Lampkin. When will the Birds activate him? Willie Lampkin is a fascinating player. He's one of the smallest interior offensive linemen in the history of the NFL. Pre-draft process checked in at 5'10", 279 pounds. Unheard of for an interior offensive lineman to be that short and to be that light. But this guy packs a punch. This guy plays with a mean streak. He is aggressive. He is nasty. Part of that is because he was an incredible wrestler during his high school career. 2 losses and more than 40 wins as a junior. And then as a senior, Willie Lampkin, 47-0 and a 2A state champion. Because he is shorter, he is a leverage-based blocker. But just because he's smaller doesn't mean he gets bullied. Now, at times, naturally, because of the lack of size, he'll get bulldozed. He will get beat. But sometimes he can make up for it with really good hand placement, hand usage, really good leverage because of that short height. And I just love the physicality and the punch that he packs despite his lack of size. Quick snap, step, low pad level type of player. And in college, Coastal Carolina, North Carolina, very experienced player along every interior offensive line spot. 61 starts in his career in college, 27 at left guard, 20 at right guard, 14 at center. And this is him standing next to Joe Douglas prior to the season. Joe Douglas, a former offensive lineman, and you see how much bigger Joe Douglas is than Willie Lampkin. And this could be a Jeff Stoutland developmental project here because the technique's going to be really important. The snap to getting into your set is going to be important if the Eagles play him at center. But he does have the ability to play left guard and right guard. And so I do wonder what the Eagles' plans are for Lampkin, who is one of the highest graded interior offensive linemen in the preseason among all NFL players. And there's no doubt that this offensive line has struggled this year. I alluded to it a little bit earlier. You take a look at the numbers per Sumer Sports. The Eagles' offensive line, 25th in sack rate, 22nd in pressure rate at 47.5%. Tied for 25th in run blocking efficiency. They have given up 26 sacks. That ranks 25th in the league. 153 pressures given up. 102 hurries surrendered. Their pressure rate, just not good enough. And this Eagles offensive line has only played in 1 full game together. Their yards per carry, 3.95. That's tied for 25th. And that goes a long way in why this Eagles offense has struggled throwing it and running it. And this brings me to Sunday's game in Week 12 against the Dallas Cowboys. A big key on Sunday. The Eagles' interior offensive line against the Cowboys' interior defensive line, and really the front 5 offensive linemen for the Eagles and the front for the Dallas Cowboys. Because while the Cowboys statistically have been one of the worst defenses in football all year long under defensive coordinator Matt Eberflus, who a lot of Cowboys fans have said that Jerry Jones needs to fire, The trade of Quinnen Williams now gives Dallas one of the top interior defensive line trios in the NFL. Quinnen Williams is a stud, former All-Pro under Robert Saleh. Osa Odighizuwa, really good player who got a huge contract of late. Kenny Clark came back to the Cowboys in that Micah Parsons trade. Quinnen Williams in his debut for the Cowboys against the Raiders on Monday night, incredibly dominant. A lot more to get to here on the show, but first, Philadelphia Eagles Now. This channel right here is worldwide, and it is a blast and an honor to host this show. But I want to know, since we reach people who watch this show from across the globe, where are you watching the show from today? Let me know down in the comment section right now. Coming up next, just around the corner, we're going to continue to talk about the struggling Eagles offense. Why don't the Eagles target the middle area of the field? I have a theory with that. Stay tuned to find out what I think that is. But first, today's show, sponsored by our friends at PrizePicks. The hard-hitting football action is even better with PrizePicks. The weather might be changing, but the feeling of being right never gets old. So keep the season rolling on PrizePicks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. PrizePicks is simple to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats. If you get your picks right, you could cash in. How you play is up to you. If you want flexibility, choose Flex Play, where you can get paid even if one of your picks misses. If you want the biggest payouts, go for the power play. No matter your play, PrizePicks is a great way to put your takes to the test. Join the millions of users and sign up for America's #1 fantasy sports app. Our 3-pick power play is Cowboys secondary and passing defense stinks. A.J. Brown, more than 60.5 receiving yards. Please silence the doubters. George Pickens, already 900-plus receiving yards this year, more than a half rushing or receiving touchdown. And then Saquon Barkley finding the end zone as well, more than a half rushing or receiving touchdown for him. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. All right, let's get to this. A big topic of conversation this week around the Philadelphia Eagles and this season around the Philadelphia Eagles. This struggling Birds offense, which especially in the last 2 games has been pull out your hair worthy angry levels from yours truly and everybody else who's had to watch this Eagles offense. They have so much talent. This is a team that won the Super Bowl last year, returned 10 of 11 starters from that Super Bowl champion team going into 2025, yet they really can't do anything well. Throwing it, running it, and here we are entering week 12. They really don't have an identity. And all week here on this show, I've been trying to figure out what is wrong with this offense, how to improve it, and how to make it better. And we found some solutions all week on the program for the real ones who have watched every episode. My guide for how to get this Eagles offense on track with the offensive coordinator, Kevin Patullo, you need to be better, creative, and you need to be less predictable. Jalen Hurts, historically, a hot and cold player. He has to be on, especially against the Dallas Cowboys. This Cowboys offense, one of the most high-octane units in the NFL. This might have to be a back-and-forth offensive game. If the Eagles offense doesn't bring it and the defense struggles and the Cowboys are lighting up the scoreboard, Eagles could go down in embarrassing fashion. This Eagles offensive line has to play better. They've been one of the worst-ranked offensive line units in the entire National Football League this year. That's unacceptable. For these Eagles wide receivers, A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith are special. When you have one-on-one opportunities, they have to get open. And a big reason why this Eagles offense has sputtered at times and they can't go on these elongated, sustained drives is because they can't convert on third downs. They've been one of the worst third down offenses in the NFL. And one of the theories and solutions that I came up with for why this Eagles offense has been struggling, vanilla, easy to predict, easy to defend route concepts. And a big gap and hole with this Eagles offensive scheme right now, they really don't target the middle area of the field, which I've always said doesn't really make a lot of sense because you're taking a third of the field away, making you easier to defend. So you look at A.J. Brown's route chart against the Detroit Lions. This isn't creative. This isn't vast, and it's pretty one or two dimensional, meaning he's either running routes on the right side or the left side. There is not a single crosser in his route chart against Detroit. This is one of the best yak wide receivers in the NFL. Yet the Eagles are running all these hitches. They're running all these easy to defend routes, and they're not scheming up ways to allow AJ to take advantage of his great skill set in being hard to take down after the catch. AJ Brown, earlier this year against the Los Angeles Rams, when the Eagles offense was awful in that first half, came alive in the second half. Look at the route chart. This is a lot better than that Detroit route chart, where you actually see a vast amount of routes that he's able to run here. You think back to A.J. Brown's route chart, week 12 against the Rams in 2024. This is what Kellen Moore was drawing up. This looks a lot different than what Kevin Patullo has devised this year. You see A.J. getting targeted and running routes every blade of grass, north, south, east, west. A.J. Brown's route chart against the Packers in 2024, week 1, when he had 5 catches for $119. That Rams game, which we just showed you, over 100 yards. Rams game from week 3, over 100 yards. There's a correlation here. When you give A.J. opportunities to run a plethora of routes, he produces because he's able to win, and you take advantage of his skill set. So week 1 against the Packers, look at the amount of routes that he's running and the differences in them, where you're targeting north, south, east, west, every third of the field. A.J. Brown's route chart against the Browns in week 6 of last year when he had 6 catches for $116. Yeah, on the left side, a lot of go balls, but he's running those go balls from the outside, from the slot, and then on the right side of the field, you see the differences in the route tree here. You see the differences in where he's lining up, inside, outside, X, in the slot. Under Kevin Patullo, you haven't really seen a lot of that creativity. And this brings me back to a big issue that we saw in 2023. What do you see here? Eagles not targeting the middle area of the field. Now, there are a lot of reasons for why this could be the case. Let's take a look at some numbers here. Another thing that is an issue with that last photo, how the wide receivers are so close, there's no spacing, and they're basically running similar routes, which makes them easy to defend, and you're just not testing or pressing the defense in that manner. So Nate Tice, who covers the NFL for Yahoo and NFL Network, I think he used to be with The Athletic, he put out some of this data, and I think it's really interesting. I wanted to pass it along. So Jalen Hurts' rate of passing attempts that traveled 10 to 22 air yards and were targeted between the numbers, with ranks among 168 NFL quarterbacks and their seasons with 200-plus passing attempts since 2021. Jalen Hurts, this is not the area or a category that you want to be a part of. 2025, 4.7%. That ranks 167th of 168 quarterbacks. 2024, 6.2%. That ranked 153rd. 2023, 5.3%. That ranked 162nd. 2022, 7.2%. That ranked 129th. 2021, 5.5%. That ranked 160th. So for throws that I would call intermediate, in between the numbers, Jalen Hurts throws some of the fewest percentages of passes in between the numbers between 10 and 22 yards among the 168 quarterbacks with 200-plus passing attempts since 2021. So you could talk about the scheme, you could talk about the play calling, you could talk about the quarterback. I think all of those are issues for what we're seeing. And so Nate Tice added on top of that and said this: it really doesn't matter who the offensive coordinator is. Hurts prefers to work outside the numbers and throw hitches, stops, go balls, slants, and slot out routes. There's going to be a few tweaks with each offensive coordinator, but the main diet of the passing game will always be what Hurts prefers to throw. There is definitely some truth to that. I also think there's some truth to the fact that Kevin Patullo isn't calling enough plays or scheming up plays to have guys go across the middle, because I have seen Jalen Hurts throw across the middle. Eagles Eric at Eagles X's and O's talking about the hitch route specifically here. The Eagles are running hitch routes at a historically high rate in 2025, despite being 30th in the NFL in total routes since they run often and keep players into block when passing. The Eagles have still run the second most hitch routes in the entire NFL. Hitch routes serve two main purposes. Hit them on the break, especially against zone, as an influence route to grab a zone defender. The problem, the Eagles rarely throw at the break. They only use the hitch as an influence route when running wrap and bow. They have hitches on the backside that are smothered by the time the progression gets to them. Hitches are great, but the volume and method in which the Eagles have deployed them is actively hurting their offense, which I agree with. The Eagles also have 3 players, I think, in the top 10 who run the most hitch routes. Dallas Goedert, A.J. Brown, and DeVonta Smith. In a way, this makes the Eagles predictable, and this is a big reason why the Eagles' offense is easy to defend, and there's not a lot of vastness to what they do. Denise, to follow up on Eagles Eric's observation about the Eagles' hitch routes, the Eagles are running more hitch routes than any team in the True Media database since 2012. Kevin Patullo and Nick Sirianni need to see this, and they just need to get more creative. I understand they have their own offensive philosophy, but it's an offensive philosophy that right now, part of it is great, but you need to evolve and be more revolutionary, in my opinion, because right now defenses have caught onto what the Eagles are doing. You need to propose and show them different looks, which can then open up the pass game and the run game. As far as targeting the middle area of the field, this is my theory here, and I think it makes some sense. The Eagles not targeting the middle area of the field has never really made a lot of sense to me. You're taking away the third of the field, as I mentioned earlier, thus making you easier to defend. I think this decision-making process could come down to the Eagles not targeting in between the hashes, in between the numbers, because they want to keep the ball out of harm's way and away from so much traffic. What I mean there is that there's so many bodies in between the hashes, in between the numbers, naturally. I don't think that this is necessarily a Jalen Hurts problem because I've seen him throw a touch over the middle. I think the Eagles have sided with a very conservative approach to their offense because it's worked. And that brings me to this crazy stat. The Eagles are conservative on offense, and maybe they don't throw over the middle of the field, not because it's a Jalen Hurts problem, not because they don't have the weapons to run routes over the middle, but they know that if a ball gets tipped over the middle for a quarterback who's a little bit shorter, can't always see, that can lead to interceptions and turnovers. We saw it with Jared Goff on the Cooper DeJean pick off the Jordan Davis pass that was defended. This is that crazy stat. Eagles don't want to turn the rock over. It's a proven formula that has been very advantageous and has worked for them. The Eagles are 40-2 under Nick Sirianni since 2021 when they win the turnover battle. That's insane. And the 2 losses, I believe, that the Eagles have suffered when they've lost the turnover battle are games that Jalen Hurts has not even played. So when the Eagles win the turnover battle, when Jalen Hurts is playing healthy, they're unbeatable. So it's really hard to blame them for the approach that they have to offensive football. I think the biggest frustration is that they have so much talent. There are ways to make this offense better, but right now the Eagles are being vanilla and they're being conservative to a point where it's costing the offense, and if it continues, it could cost this team an opportunity to win a Super Bowl. As far as Sirianni's philosophy on the turnover battle, here's what he said. We always talk about victory favors the team making the fewest mistakes. There's a sign of that up on our wall, and it's about playing with great detail with your fundamentals. And so that's obviously something that's very important to us. The 2 games that we did lose, one in 2021 was to Kansas City in the regular season. The other one was last year against Washington. When you combine good talent with good detail and good fundamentals, that's where you get some special things happening. I think that's been a big key The talent combined with the fundamentals, and then you add the defense, taking the football away and doing the things that they do and being just as obsessive about it on that end as well. It's just something that we've been very obsessive about. Our guys have done a great job of paying attention to it, playing to their strengths with the ball in their hands and trying to take it away. Again, at the end of the day, all I really care about is wins and losses. This is all that Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts care about. But there are also other guys who care about winning. And like A.J. Brown, they want to play a role in winning. And honestly, when you're playing offensive football that is lackluster, like the Eagles have been playing all year, if I was a member of that offense, I would be frustrated too. And I think it's a combination of all these factors, right? It's good to keep the ball out of harm's way. And the Eagles, what they're preaching clearly is working. I mean, 40-2 is an insane record. In the NFL, when you win the turnover battle, you win about 80% of the time. The Eagles are far greater than that. But there are some things from a philosophical play calling, play design standpoint that they could do better to make them even better as a team. Interesting, fascinating stuff as this conversation continues here. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button here on Philadelphia Eagles Now. My name is Chase Senior. Thanks for supporting the show. You're all the best, and I appreciate you.